talk about a buzzword or a buzz phrase that everybody's getting down with now, which is awesome because I'm a huge proponent of it. But I want people to be really well-versed in what the term means and really understand not only the skill set that's required in it, but the depth in which we create from when we talk about trauma-informed coaching, trauma-informed counseling, trauma-informed care and initiatives. Wherever the word trauma-informed is being used, I want you to know what that shit really means, because like many other modalities or approaches, it's getting a lot of attention now. And again, I'm stoked about that because you know that I know that trauma is pervasive as fuck, and the more ways that we can cultivate effective programming and supportive programming that helps to really mitigate the consequences of re-traumatizing clients and bring about services that really support health and well-being and the longevity of that, I'm all for it. Challenge though, like I said, when anything becomes a trend or a buzzword, oftentimes the significance or the meaning of it gets watered down and we lose sight of the intentions and even the fidelity of what it means to participate or practice a specific modality and the intentions behind it. It was a mouthful, but I want to get into 6 core principles that make up a trauma-informed approach. And again, you can be trauma-informed as a clinician, as a therapist, as a doctor, as a teacher, as a male provider. There's a big movement right now around trauma-informed coaching, which I'm in support of, but I think there needs to also be a separate conversation around staying in your lane and knowing your scope of practice, because it is a clinical response. And we want to ensure we are being ethical in terms of the coaching industry and what we're using and how we're delivering a trauma-informed response. So oftentimes, just because you're a trauma-informed coach, that doesn't necessarily mean, in fact, that you should go and unpack people's trauma in your profession. Again, that's about staying in your lane. Separate conversation, separate video. So that you understand what trauma-informed coaches look like, or a lens, or what does that look like in the coach-client relationship, clinician-client relationship. I want to go through the 6 core principles. And these were initiated by SAMHSA many, many years ago. And they really set the blueprint for the ways in which we go about this. And SAMHSA stands for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association. They're a national organization that creates programming and policy around mental health and substance abuse. The first one, in being a trauma-informed provider, really what you're looking at is safety. And safety is essential for the basis of we want to create opportunities for people to engage not only in a conversation, but a dynamic that feels both physically, emotionally, and environmentally safe. Part of what we know about trauma is that people have an overactive fight or flight response, hypervigilance, disrupted biology. And so for the basis of being able to have effective treatment and planning, we want our clients to feel safe. And this goes a long way, from knowing the tone of your voice that you use to showing up with consistency, creating opportunities for individuals to sit in certain places of the room when you're meeting in one-on-one session, being aware of noises and smells that could initiate a trigger. Those are all different ways that we would employ a sense of safety. Not to mention the emotional safety too that we bring in the form of a corrective relationship between you and the participant, you and the client. So safety is also critical because what it does is it offers an opportunity for the individual to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is really what transcends or serves as the vehicle for transformation. Brene Brown talks a lot about this, about transformation and vulnerability being 2 sides of the same coin. So if we can't facilitate a space for our clients to feel safe in the world, right, or at least in session with us, chances of them being able to create transformation is going to be diminished. So safety is the first one. The second one is peer support. And so what this means is, and I'm a huge proponent of it as a clinical psychotherapist and a coach, I do a lot of group work. I love group work because not only does it provide that peer support, that essential need for humans to be in connection with other humans, right? But it also creates an opportunity to be seen by different people, different voices, different eyes, different lenses. And through that, you have an opportunity to engage in dynamics, right, that oftentimes create what we call like a microcosm. So when you have a group dynamic, things start to show up, triggers start to show up, things start to transpire rather. And what that does is it creates an opportunity to work on your shit. So I always say in a group dynamic, right, if it's happening in here, it's definitely happening out there. So peer support, recognition, praise, the ability to relate to one another, and creates not only an opportunity for safety and recognition, but it also creates opportunity for people to be inspired by each other's stories, strengths, and personal pursuit for happiness, which I'm a huge proponent of as well. The other thing is, number 3, collaborative dynamics and mutuality. So what this is, and this is very different from a conventional model of therapy, coaching, doctor-patient, dynamic. It's the idea where we neutralize the power dynamic. Now, I am huge in this or about this in my practice, meaning I may have a client, but I make it my first objective right out the gate to neutralize any power dynamic that might be at play, regardless of our socioeconomic backgrounds, our race, our cultural identity, our religion, etc. Because what we want to do is we want this relationship to have a mutual exchange. We want it to be collaborative. My clients know better than me really what they need for healing. I'm serving as a vector, sometimes a resource, a vehicle for their transformation, but ultimately your clients are going to know way better than you will ever know what's best for them. And so you need their participation on an equal ground. You need their collaboration. Also, when we look at the idea of mutuality, it's also taking into consideration the different social constructs that often play into disparity. So again, looking at gender and power dynamics, looking at race, looking at systemic oppression and how that's played a role in mental health or in, personal development. So it helps to really break down, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, some of this colonized approach that we have used time and time again, where again, we put the doctor, the therapist, the whoever up on this pedestal. And through that process, it's no longer a collaborative process, but rather a exchange of services and goods. And that's not what coaching is about. And that's certainly not what healing is about. So we really want to break away from this idea that the client or the participant doesn't know shit about themselves and doesn't know how to access their own healing. Truly what it is we're helping them to create a platform or a space where they can start to self-actualize the very things that they need to move forward. That's our role in our position. And you can't do that if there's a power dynamic at play. So being aware of that. Number 4 is empowerment, voice, and choice. And so what this looks like, it really kind of dovetails off of this idea of collaboration and mutuality. We want to create a space where our client's voice really fucking matters in terms of our treatment planning, in terms of our goal setting, in terms of our strength-based approach. We want their consent, right? This is a big, big topic right here. We want their consent in this approach together and in this collaboration, and we want them to be really spearheading their own personal movement. And so creating an opportunity for empowerment also looks like this: accountability. Accountability is at the cornerstone of what it means to really have a sense of empowerment. It's saying, I am 100% accountable for the life that I am living and the choices that I'm making and the thoughts that I am thinking and the world that I'm creating around me. And through this, I'm going to initiate a process of support, of success, of, gaining access to resources, but ultimately empowerment and accountability, again, they're like BFFs. And so we want to create a system or approach where those two things are fundamental in your relationship with your clients. And then the last one that I want to bring up is cultural and historical and gender issues. So the idea behind this is really looking at the idea of, again, these social constructs that are in place that play a really, really vital role into a person's psychosocial development. So what that means is I'm willing to take into context the historical background, like how did your family grow up? What's the story of your ancestors? What type of environment did you grow up in? Religious, culture, gender, your sexual orientation. How did these all play a vital role into your development? And through this understanding, I'm going to develop gender specific and cultural specific programming that meets your needs. And this is really, really vital. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of like staying in your lane as a coach, as a therapist, as a doctor, because not everyone has that necessary skill set. However, if you're going to choose to step forward into the trauma-informed world, this is a must. right? Because trauma-informed means that we're looking at these huge macro issues that play really critical roles into our development as humans, both on an interpersonal level and well as a collective level. So we're looking at race, ethnicity, and the impacts of what that looks like, right? We're also looking at gender and all the different elements that play a vital role into who we are in the world in relationship to our identity with sex and gender. And it wasn't the last one, I thought it was. The other one is transparency and trustworthiness. So this is the last core principle around trauma-informed care initiatives, approaches. Dovetails really off of safety. And the idea is that in your conversation, in your communication, in your contractual work, whatever it is, you are showing up not only fully present for the work, but transparent. And what you're doing is you're setting the intention to create trust with your clients. Trustworthy piece really facilitates that safety that I talked about in the beginning of the video. Why does this matter? Whether you are a practitioner yourself or you're on the receiving end and you're looking for a coach or a therapist, why the hell does this matter? This matters because a trauma-informed approach really allows a practitioner to work with a client in a very deep way. And it creates an opportunity, once again, for that collaborative relationship that stems from choice, that stems from empowerment, that stems from accountability. And when we look at the coaching industry, or we even look at psychotherapy as a whole, for a long time, all of that has really been sort of mitigated or diminished in terms of our work with clients. And I don't think that it's always been a conscious intention. I mean, in the world of psychology, perhaps, but when it comes to more innovative approaches, both in human services, psychosocial development, and the coaching industry as a whole, we really want to push forward with our clients. And for those seeking out a counselor or a coach, we really want to push forward with initiatives that are really based in these lenses, because it supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. It supports safety, and it encourages all of us, right, who are facilitating, to be at the forefront of what it means to not only be in the know of what's happening in this really huge shift in humanity, but it keeps us really in tune to who we are and who we are with our clients. So we want to be cutting edge. We want to be on the forefront of change, and we want to always initialize a product or a relationship from the place of safety. As humans, we need to feel safe in the world. And this is a stepping stone in that direction when we start looking at personal development. So if you have any questions, hit me up below in the comments, and choose wisely when you look into coaching or therapy, or physicians for that matter, because it plays a vital piece into your healing as well. Ruby and I, my biz partner, my bestie, we offer a program called Life Camp. It is a trauma-informed living workshop that is completely dedicated to your well-being and your success. We take a neuroplastic approach in addition to cutting-edge content, and we combine it to make a really dope-ass program.
Hey, it's Ruby. Now we want to hear from you. What's one insight or action you're taking away from today's episode of Life Camp TV? Put that in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. While you're at it, if you liked this video, go ahead and click like. You can subscribe for future updates or save it for later. Share with a friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Life Camp TV.